Let me tell you something, man. When Tony Robbins first heard Muslims talking about this thing called riba, interest, he thought it was just some old religious rule about money. But the more he dug into it, the more he realized this wasn't some minor spiritual detail. It was a whole protection system disguised as a rule. Today, we live in a world where everybody's stressed, drowning in payments they don't understand, signing papers they never read, stuck in numbers that follow them for decades. And as Tony Robbins learned how Islam forbids interest, completely forbids it, he realized if he knew this at 20, he would have avoided a whole lot of pain. Muslims explain that interest destroys families, breaks communities, traps the poor, enriches the already rich, and creates a world where the only people who win are the ones who already started ahead. The way Islam breaks it down makes more sense today than ever, because modern life is built on debt. School debt, car debt, house debt, even furniture debt, and people think they're buying freedom but end up working for banks for 30 years.
So today I'm talking about why Islam forbids interest, how it protects people, how it exposes the trap we all walk into, how it keeps money clean, and how it actually builds a world where folks can breathe instead of chase debt until their dying day. And trust me, we're about to get into some stuff that'll make you rethink what you're signing, how you're spending, and why so many people all over the world feel like no matter how hard they work, they never get ahead. Because I'm telling you, right now, once you understand what riba really is, you'll see exactly why Islam slammed that door shut 1,400 years ago, and why the modern world is proving that decision right every single day. Now look, when Muslims start talking about interest riba, they talk about it like it's poison. Not because money is bad, not because success is bad, not because wanting a home or a car or a business is bad. No, they say it's because interest flips the whole idea of fairness upside down. It turns money from something you use into something that uses you. And man, when I sat down and really tried to understand this, it was like somebody turned the lights on in a room I didn't even know I was standing in. See, I grew up in a world where debt was normal. Not optional, normal. You needed school, debt. You needed a car, debt. You wanted a house, big debt. You bought a couch, somehow still debt. Half the time you'd be signing a paper thinking you're about to own something and you don't even realize you actually just signed up to work for the bank for the next 10 years. And the whole time they smiling at you, handing you a pen like they doing you a favor. So I asked a Muslim brother once, man, why is Islam so strict about interest? Why is it such a big deal? And he looked at me and said, Tony Robbins, interest is when you make money off someone else's pain. And that sentence stuck with me, because the more I thought about it, the more I saw it everywhere. Credit cards, student, loans, mortgages, car payments, it's all the same machine. You take money from somebody when they're desperate, and then you lock them in so tight that even when they pay back the original amount, they still owe you double, sometimes triple. And I ain't saying this like some outsider. I've been there. I know what it's like to feel chained to a number. I know what it's like to wake up and the first thing on your mind is a bill. I know what it's like to work, and no matter how hard you push, the balance barely move. And that's when I understood Islam ain't trying to stop people from living. It's trying to stop people from being owned. 'Cause here's the thing about interest. You don't need to be foolish to fall into it. You just need to be human. You need to be a little scared, a little stressed, a little short on cash, and that's it. The trap springs shut. And Islam looks at that and says, nope, that's not how money should work. That's not how society should work. That's not how people should treat each other. In Islam, money is supposed to move. It's supposed to help people build things, lift communities. You can invest. You can partner. You can share profits. You can share risk. You can build businesses. You can grow wealth. But you can't just sit back, lend somebody $1, and demand $2 back without lifting a finger. Because in Islam, that's considered the most unfair deal in history. One person always wins. The other always loses. And you know what's crazy? You don't even have to believe in Islam to see that this makes sense. Look around the world right now. How many people do you know who are actually free, not financially comfortable? I'm talking freak. No loan, no debt, no card payments hanging over their head. It's rare. Almost nobody. And when a system produces that much struggle for that many people, something ain't right. Islam says interest is forbidden because it leads to injustice. It creates two classes of people, the ones who own everything and the ones who owe everything. And tell me, that doesn't sound like the modern world. Go ahead, tell me that ain't exactly what we see. Let me paint it like this. You want to buy a $20,000 car. The bank says, sure, we'll help you. Then 10 years later, you realize you paid $35,000 for a $20,000 car and you still owe money. How did that happen? Interest. You want to go to school. The system says, no problem, here's a loan. Now you're 35 years old, married with kids, still paying off a decision you made at 18. How did that happen? Interest. And don't even get me started on houses. You buy a house thinking you're building a future, and by the time you finished paying that 30-year mortgage, the bank made more money off that house than you did living in it. Islam basically said, we're not doing that. We're not letting one person sit back and profit off another person's struggle. If you want to make money, fine. Work for it. Build with someone. Invest in them. Share the risk. But don't lock people into a lifetime of owing you more than what you gave. And let me tell you, as a grown man who has lived long enough to see what money does to people, this hit me deep because I've seen folks lose marriages over debt. I've seen families break under the pressure. I've seen people fall into depression because no matter how hard they work, the numbers don't move. And Islam is saying, we're not building a society where money breaks people. We're building a society where money supports people. But here's the part that really blew my mind. Muslims ain't just told to avoid interest. They're encouraged to build alternatives, halal business models, profit sharing, partnerships, risk-sharing systems, lending without expecting extra, helping someone get on their feet without trapping them. And the more I learned, the more I realized something. Islam didn't just forbid interest, it replaced it with fairness. Think about that. Most systems will tell you what not to do, but they won't give you a better way to do it. Islam said, don't take interest, but here's how to do business right. Don't trap people, but here's how to help them grow. Don't build wealth on someone else's tears, but here's a wealth system based on shared success. And honestly, that changed my whole perspective because growing up, nobody told me money had a moral side. They told me to save it, spend it, earn it. But nobody said money can be ethical, money can be clean. Money can actually help people instead of crushing it. Islam teaches that, plain and simple. And the more I listen, the more I realize Muslims ain't scared of money. They just don't want money to turn into a weapon. They don't want money becoming a reason someone can't sleep at night. They don't want money becoming a chain that wraps around your neck. They want it to be a tool that builds, not destroy. So when Muslims say Riba is forbidden, they're not trying to be strict for no reason. They're trying to protect you from a system that benefits a few and suffocates everyone else. They're trying to keep you from falling into a hole that takes decades to climb out of. They're trying to keep the world fair, or at least fairer than it is. And if I'm being honest, after everything I've seen, everything I've struggled through, everything I've learned the hard way, I kind of wish more people talked about money this way. Because if there's one thing everybody in this world needs, is financial peace. And Islam, in its own unique way, is saying, let's give people a chance to breathe. When I kept asking Muslims why interest was such a big deal, one of them said something that stuck with me for days. He said, Tony Robbins, Riba doesn't just take money, it takes dignity. And when he said that, I felt that in my chest. Because if you've ever owed money, really old money, you know exactly what he meant. You know what it's like to avoid phone calls, to circle dates on your calendar you don't want to see, to walk around pretending everything's fine when inside you feel like you're sinking and you tell yourself, it's my fault, I signed the papers. But nobody tells you that the whole system was designed for you to sign before you even understood. So Muslims look at that and they say, we're not putting a human being into that position. They believe money should never have the power to humiliate someone. And when I heard that, I realized something. The Western world treats debt like a normal part of life, but Islam treats it like a burden that should be avoided at all cost, a weight you don't put on your own shoulders unless you absolutely have to. And the more I talked to people, the more I saw how different that mindset really is. Because in so many places today, we treat riba like it's air. You can't live without it. Everything is structured around it. And if you try to step outside that system, folks look at you like you crazy. But in Islam, stepping outside of it is the goal. Staying clean from it is success. Staying free from it is freedom. And I started thinking back on all the people I've known throughout my life. Good people. Hard-working people. People deserve better. And I realized how many of them weren't poor because they didn't work. They weren't struggling because they were lazy. They were stuck because every time they made $1, the system took 2. They were living lives where they were punished for being in need. And when Islam forbids interest, it is literally saying need should never be punished. And that idea right there, that's powerful because in the modern world, interest has become this invisible pressure. You don't see it, you don't hear it, but you feel it every single month. It hides inside your mortgage, your loans, your cards, your contracts. It hides inside your late fees, your penalties, your fine print. It hides in that little line that says APR. And you don't realize that tiny line is about to shape your next decade. And Muslims are over here saying, if you help someone, help them for real. Don't help them so you can trap them. And man, that's the part I kept replaying in my mind. Because interest always starts as help. You walk into a bank, nervous, unsure, stressed, and the banker sits you down like he, your friend. He smiles like he understands you. He hands you papers like he's offering you a lifeline. But after that signature dries, that ain't friendship, that's ownership. And Islam says no human should own another human's future like that. No human should have the right to profit endlessly just because someone else fell on hard time. And you can argue with a lot of things, but you can't argue with that moral foundation. It's solid, it's clean, it makes sense. But here's where Islam gets even deeper. They say interest doesn't just hurt individuals, it hurts entire societies. It creates generational imbalance. Kids grow up watching their parents drown in debt. And when they grow up, they start their lives in the exact same hole. And Islam says that's not how society should function. Success shouldn't be decided by what family you were born into or what debts your father signed before you were old enough to spell your own name. And if you think that's exaggerated, look around. You got people in the richest countries in the world who live paycheck to paycheck. People with degrees, jobs, families, responsibilities still suffocating. And meanwhile, the banks, they're celebrating record profits every single year. And Islam said no to that more than 14 centuries ago. It shut the door on wealth without effort, profit without risk, gain without fairness. Islam says if you want to make money, you gotta be part of the journey. If someone wins, you win with them. If they lose, you take the hit too. That's why Islamic finance is built on partnership and real investment. Not this sit back, do nothing, squeeze people model we see everywhere today. And when you think deeply, you realize this isn't old-fashioned. This is advanced. This is humane. This is what the world wishes it could go back to. But here's the part that surprised me the most. Muslims told me that even giving charity doesn't replace fixing the system, meaning you can't break people with interest and then feel good by donating a little extra. Islam says the root problem has to be removed. The structure has to be fair. The whole flow of money has to be built on justice, not exploitation. Charity is good, but justice is better. And that right there, that's wisdom. That's deep. Because we live in a time where a lot of people suffer quietly. They're embarrassed to talk about money. They feel ashamed to admit they're drowning. But the truth is, they're not drowning because they're careless. They're drowning because the tide was designed to pull them out. And Islam saw that before the world even built banks. And when I think about all this, how Islam stops people from exploiting others, how it sets rules that protect you from getting trapped, how it creates business models that lift everyone instead of crushing someone. I can't help but respect the wisdom behind it. You don't need to be a Muslim to appreciate fairness. You just need to be human. And I'm telling you, the more I learned about rival, the more I saw that interest isn't just a financial issue. It's spiritual. It affects your peace, your family, your sleep, your relationships, your health. That changes how you think, how you behave, how you dream. It steals the freedom God gave you. And Islam, in its own powerful way, is trying to give that freedom back. And when I finally sat back and looked at the whole thing, man, it hit me how deep this really goes. Because Islam isn't just saying, hey, don't take interest. It's saying, don't build a society on stress. Don't build a life on fear. Don't build your home on numbers you can't breathe under. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized how many people would sleep better at night if they weren't drowning under money that grows faster than their ability to live. You ever notice how interest makes you feel like you're chasing a finish line that keeps running away from you? You pay, and you pay, and somehow the number barely moves. It's like trying to empty the ocean with a spoon. And people think they're failing because they're bad with money, when really, the system is designed to keep you on your knees. When you step back and see that, you stop blaming individuals and start blaming the structure around them. That's what Islam was warning about from day one, not because people are weak, but because the system is too powerful. And look, I'm a grown man who's seen a whole lot of life. I've been broke, I've been paid, I've been up, I've been down, and I can tell you this. When a whole system tells you it's normal to owe your whole life, something is wrong. When paying off your house takes 30 years, but missing 3 payments can take it away, something is wrong. When your kid's education means your kids inherit your debt before they even get a job, something is wrong. And that's when the Islamic principle made sense to me. Islam wants a society where money circulates, not suffocates, where you help each other grow instead of trapping each other in a corner, where business is clean, straightforward, no fine print waiting to bite you, where your success doesn't depend on someone else's misery. That's what interest does. It creates winners and losers before the race even starts. But Islam says the race should be fair with dignity on both sides. So I sat there imagining what life would look like if people actually live this way. No predatory loans, no families torn apart by debt, no stress eating people alive quietly, just simple, honest agreements. You need help. Here's help. You'll pay me back what you borrow. Not double, not triple, not forever. And I thought to myself, man, that sounds like the kind of world a lot of folks are praying for right now. Because at the end of the day, money comes and goes. But the wounds debt leaves, those stay. They affect marriages, dreams, confidence, mental peace. And Islam is saying, don't let something so temporary destroy something so precious. When you see it through that lens, forbidding interest isn't some old rule meant to make life harder. It's protection. It's mercy. It's a guardrail against a system that can eat your whole life if you're not careful. And I'll be honest with you. Learning all this change, the way I look at lending, borrowing, business, all of it, it made me respect just how much thought Islam puts into protecting real people in real life. Not in some spiritual abstract way, but in the bills on the table, roof over your head, don't lose your mind type of way. It's a faith that wants you stable, wants you safe, wants you treated fairly, and looking at the world today, that's something we all could use a little more.